Tom Brady. Great guy, great guy. Great guy, great friend of mine, great champion, unbelievable winner. He called today and he said, Donald, I support you, you're my friend, and I voted for you. Hopefully tomorrow's election results will give the opportunity to make America great again. Best wishes for great results tomorrow, Bill Belichick. So I just want to.
So the 10-part Bill Belichick hit piece is finally over, and I'm not sure what has had more revisionist history, this documentary or Britney Spears' insanity, but there's a few things I kind of want to get off my chest, because I just feel there's been so much information left out, and especially in the final 2 episodes of the series. I mean, it first starts with Donald Trump reading a letter from Bill Belichick, which I did certainly not have on my bingo card to be in any point of this documentary, but Bill got heavily criticized because it was all about that do your job mentality, where you did not talk to the press, where you only really focused on football. And so the Bill Belichick criticism here was fair, because it divided the locker room. It put a lot of people in tough positions. But the issue I had in this documentary is the fact that they left out 2 very important other members of the Patriots that were very involved with Donald Trump as well. Tom Brady, Robert Kraft. This isn't a political thing one way or another, but the bottom line is I like facts and things accurately portrayed. But at this point back in 2016, the biggest story was Tom Brady's relationship with Robert Kraft. The hat in Tom Brady's locker room. Tom just saying, they were friends. That was what the buzz was of the media. Any criticism or praise, depending on what side of the aisle you were on, was really more centered about Tom Brady. And then number 2 was probably Bill Belichick in the letter. But then there's also Robert Kraft. And this whole documentary has been a Robert Kraft production. And he and Donald Trump have been friends for like over 30 or 40 years. I mean, I think allegedly Robert Kraft donated like $1 million for Donald Trump's inauguration. So Devin McCourty, very vaguely referenced both Tom and Kraft's sort of relationship, but it wasn't like a focal point like it was with Bill Belichick, and that kind of bothered me just because it was just another example of just trying to bury Bill Belichick, making Robert and Tom look like literal saints. But then they go into Tom and Jimmy, and Kraft basically steps in and, lack of certain terms, basically told Bill, you have to trade Jimmy. You're not trading Tom. At this point, I'm like, yeah, Bill was dumb. Thank God they kept Tom. But you know what they do not talk about in this thing, and it kind of bothered me, was there was this story that blew up kind of late in that season. It was a Seth Wickersham story sort of talking about Brady and Jimmy's relationship and how bad it was, and it really painted Tom in a bad light. Like, I think there was even a reference that Jimmy tried to get a workout with snake oil salesman Alex Guerrero at the TB12 Center, but the doors were literally locked. And at the time I found it kind of hilarious, and I felt that Seth Wickersham was just kind of trying to create a story because the Patriots were winning so much and all this stuff. But in reality, there was probably some truth to that. And look, Montana wasn't a great mentor to Steve Young. Certainly Brett Favre wasn't to Aaron Rodgers, and I wouldn't have expected Tom to be anything to Jimmy G besides respectful. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to talk about the Jimmy trade and their dynamic, you can't just leave this thing out, because to me it's very important. Because it shows Brady's insecurities. And even earlier in the episode with Matt Castle, Brady trying to play through the ACL tear because he didn't want to lose his job. Because all along, Brady knew that his job was never 100%, sealed. And then we skip to the 2018 season, where it's sort of the last dance, so to speak, the equivalent of the 98 Bulls, where everything's dark and gloomy. Bill and Tom are barely speaking to each other, and somehow, some way, the Patriots make it to the Super Bowl. And so they go into Super Bowl 53 and give Belichick all this praise. That he randomly switched from man to zone defense in that 2 weeks prior to the Rams because Bill saw something, seeing that the Rams could not play offense against the zone. So Bill blew up his whole defense and basically they, went from scratch. And obviously it was an incredible coaching job by Bill. The team won 13-3. The Rams were the number 1 offense in the league that year, and Belichick ran circles over Sean McVay. But the issue I have with the overpraising of Bill here is I really did feel like it was Kraft trying to make the viewer understand why on earth he chose Belichick over Brady. Because it is still such a head-scratching move regardless. And I think that the documentary, made partially by Kraft Productions, wanted to kind of show Belichick's incredible moment to again not make the viewer completely blame Kraft for choosing Bill. Or you can look and say, well, Bill did an incredible job against the Rams. Brady was, 25-ish touchdowns a game at this point. There was decline. I get why Kraft wanted to have Bill coach for years to come, I think he said. So I think that a lot of people would say, oh, well, Bill kind of got his flowers here. This in the castle. But I look at the Super Bowl 53 as really Kraft trying to bail himself out. And then they finally discussed the exit, Brady leaving the Patriots. But they basically glossed over the entire 2019 season. And I had an issue with that because there was a pretty high-profile arrest that occurred in that 2019 season. Robert Kraft, down in Florida, massage parlor. Where was that? If you're going to talk about Spygate and throw Bill under the bus and talk about Deflategate, and how do you not talk about Robert Kraft's arrest? Because Brady was still on the team. And I remember Brady did this weird cameo on like a Paul Rudd show where he almost mimicked the massage parlor, all of that stuff that went down. And it almost felt like a shot to Kraft. And go look it up, but it happened, late 2019. And I thought that basically embarrassed the organization. With Tom and Bill and Kraft still there. A team that had won 12 games that final season. What Kraft did or didn't do, I know it's all alleged because tapes were destroyed and it's fun when you're a billionaire and you can do that, but it embarrassed the fans, the organization, and I don't think Kraft has ever been able to kind of recover fully from that incident. And the fact that the documentary did not even mention it, even kind of indirectly, almost invalidated the whole documentary. Because when I look at all of the drama from episodes 1 to 10, besides Aaron Hernandez, this was probably the worst thing that happened in regards to the Patriots. The owner of the team getting arrested. That was such a bad look for the Patriots, for Kraft, for everybody. And part of me always wondered if that was the final nail that got Tom to leave. But some of the omissions in this documentary just have really ticked me off. Earlier on, obviously a Bill getting blamed for Hernandez's death. Things like that were silly. But just leaving out facts like this was kind of insulting to the viewer. This whole documentary is clearly made for the non-football fan. The person that's obsessed with serial killer documentaries. That loves the drama. Because this really didn't, do the Patriot Dynasty justice.